Hello, critical thinkers. Hope all is well. Welcome to the stream tonight. Tonight, we have some major news updates going on. Let me actually turn off that music. I want to get to the topics at hand. Okay, here we go. So, basically, tonight we have a couple of news stories that we're covering. So, we're covering the Robert Brooks murder, the correction officers. In this case, there's 5 correction officers who had court dates, 3 yesterday and 2 today. In addition to that, we have indictments in the Messiah Nantwi beating death at Mid-State Correctional Facility. So I'm also covering that tonight as well. So we have a lot of articles to cover, and actually a press conference that William Fitzpatrick did at the end of the Messiah Nantry arraignments. So if everyone could please do me a favor, some housekeeping, if you can please like the video, share the video, comment below. If you can write down in the chat where you're from, that would be greatly appreciated. I'd love to see where people are watching from, whether you're watching from upstate New York, whether you're in Florida, whether you're in the UK, or whether you're in Australia. We have people of all from all different nations watching this channel, so we greatly appreciate that. So let me just jump real quick to a couple of the comments. Angel Walters, welcome, Angel. Very glad to have you here. We have Melanie Bishop. Melanie of south of Rochester, New York. And for those of you who don't know, Melanie Bishop appeared on the channel. She participated in a panel discussion discussing prison reform, in which there were elected officials. They had a former correction officer that was there as well, and a wife of a correction officer, basically advocating for the elimination of the HALT Act. So thank you, Melanie, for being here. Really, really appreciate that. Appreciate that immensely. We have Miss Sagittarius 61, South Florida. Hi, neighbor. Hopefully you're doing well, Miss Sagittarius 61. We have Sandra Renfrey from Connecticut. Welcome, Sandra. I'm not sure if this is your first time being on the stream, but thank you for being here. Really, really appreciate that. We have Angel Walter saying, watching from ATL, bet from Rochester, New York. So it seems like you have ties in Rochester, and upstate New York is where all of these major court cases are happening. So thank you for being here. Really appreciate that. We have Leslie Scott from Rochester, New York as well. Wow, we got Robin Daly from Rochester, New York. We have Elaine, hello, coming from southern tier of New York. We have Al Razak vacationing in Puerto Rico. Al, let me know which part of Puerto Rico you're actually vacationing in, just out of curiosity. We got Melanie Bishop again saying Rochester is in the house. Rochester is in the house. Upstate New York is in the house. So we have a lot of news today. Oh, we have Richard Seller from Northern New York. A big shout out to Richard Seller. Really appreciate, he sent me a couple of articles to be reviewed tonight. So by the way, I do appreciate your emails, your comments. If you see news, let me know about it. Because basically I get maybe 90% of my potential videos and live streams, I get it from you guys. So I really do appreciate that. You guys are very connected to what's happening within the New York State doc system, and all of you feed me information. So I really, really appreciate that. So thank you, Richard, for feeding me those articles. Greatly appreciated. Josephine Santomaruro, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. I'm not familiar with that part. Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Welcome, Josephine. Thank you for being here. David Ferguson from Lockport, New York. Good to see you again, David. Oh, Al is vacationing in San Juan, Puerto Rico. San Juan, Puerto Rico, just be very cautious. Don't fall for any tourist scams that are out there. If somebody hits you from the back, they hit your vehicle. If you're in a rental, just be cautious, because there's a bunch of scams. They run out of these tourist places. So Again, thank you all for being here. Really, really appreciate that. Again, some housekeeping. If you have the opportunity to like the stream, like the video, comment, share, get this message out to other individuals who you feel need to know about this. The mainstream media is really not discussing this a great deal. It's more the local news stations that have been covering these beating deaths. Mainstream media outside of NBC New York, Sarah Wallace, who's been doing a great job covering these stories. That typically this is going to be a grassroots type of thing in terms of getting the information out there to everyone. So, what I want to do first is go over. Oh, Al says, "Thanks for the honesty, brother. I got to keep it real with you. So just be very careful. Be very careful." Okay. So what I want to do first is go over the Robert Brooks news. As I mentioned earlier, we had 5 correction officers appearing in court. 3 appeared yesterday, and 2 appeared today. Ironically, I'm not making this up. In terms of yesterday's court appearances, all 3 defendants in yesterday's court appearances, their first name was Nicholas. And today, the 2 defendants in the Robert Brooks murder case, those 2 defendants are both named Michael. I don't know if they did this intentionally or whether there's this is just coincidental, but just FYI, just a little tidbit of information. So I'm going to jump to the first article here. And this article is from WKTV.com. 3 former CEOs charged in connection with inmate death appear in Oneida County Court, request more time for plea consideration. So, for those of you who don't know, these defendants appeared in court several weeks ago for their initial arraignments, and basically they were offered plea deals. William Fitzpatrick offered plea deals for these defendants. We don't know exactly what they were for these three defendants. So we don't know the details of those plea agreements. We will find out in open court if they do plead guilty. So let's move on to the article. This article is not that long. Utica, New York, 3 former correction officers charged in connection with the death of inmate Robert Brooks at Marcy Correctional Facility last December appeared in Oneida County Court Tuesday morning. For those of you who don't know, William Fitzpatrick is the special prosecutor assigned to the case because the New York State Office Attorney General, they had to recuse themselves, Letitia James, okay? Continuing on, the defendants, again, we have 3 Nicholases: Nicholas Kiefer, Nicholas Angelone, and Nicholas Gentile requested additional time to consider their plea offers. The judge scheduled their next appearance for April 29th and 30th, coinciding with the deadlines for other former co-defendants in this case to report on their offers. The judge also informed the 3 that he expects to hear their responses at the end of the month. So, as it stands now with these 3 defendants, they have to appear back in court the end of the month. I believe their court dates, as stated here, is April 29th and April 30th. So they will have to give a response, and if they don't accept the plea deals, it should be going to trial. Also, one thing that's very important to note was that the last court appearance for these defendants, there was talk of federal prosecution, and William Fitzpatrick stated that he doesn't speak on behalf of the federal government. I believe it's the Southern District of New York that could be potentially prosecuting, and William Fitzpatrick mentioned that if these defendants did accept a plea deal, that he would advocate that it would satisfy the federal potential indictment. So my apologies for not articulating that well, but hopefully people understand that Fitzpatrick cannot speak on behalf of the federal government, federal prosecutors. So we will see what happens if there is federal prosecution for those officers involved in the death of the murder of Robert Brooks. So let's continue on with the article. Um, if they choose to decline the offers, they should prepare for trial. More defendants are set to appear in court on Wednesday to discuss their plea offers. So, Wednesday being today, this article's from yesterday. We have two additional defendants, as I mentioned before, the Michael, and I'll go over those officer names. So, I'm going to pull this article out and I'm going to pull up another one very quickly. But the thing I want to do is just jump to a couple of the comments and take it from there. So the last comment we had was from Al. Next up, we have Nona E828 from New York City. Welcome, Nona. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate all the comments that you're making on my videos. I really appreciate it. I do read them. I do comment to them. So thank you for interacting with the content. Thank you so much. We have Brooke with him. What is Glenn Tromley's status? We don't know what his status is at the moment. He might potentially be one of the three individuals that have accepted a plea deal that it's not public yet. William Fitzpatrick had mentioned that there are three defendants who are cooperating who will potentially give testimony that have plea deals that are not public yet. So just important for me to note that. FGM Sandy, thank you for spreading light to this situation. I believe this is Robert Brooks Jr., if I'm not mistaken. Um, th Thank you for being on the channel. Really, really appreciate it. And you have an open forum if you want to say anything, if you want to come on, by all means, just let me know and I'll drop a link to have you come on. Okay. Next up, David Ferguson. David Ferguson mentioned it's the Western District of New York. For some reason, I was thinking the Eastern District of New York. So thank you for correcting me. FGM Sandy says, yes, they have court again on the 29th. Yeah. And I will make reference to that later on as well. And then we have Chris Milkey saying, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Uh, Give me a quick second. I want to drop a link in the chat. This is for anyone who wants to come on later on after I go through these articles. If you want to come on and let me know your thoughts, I would love to hear it. Love to hear it. Brooke Witham says thank you. John from Buffalo, New York. Welcome, John. Thank you for being here. Okay, so let's jump ahead to the next article. All right, so give me a second to populate this. Okay, we have another comment I'll bring up very quickly. We have Loca. Fitzpatrick actually objected to them asking for more time, but the judge granted it, obviously. So, I do want to make a comment about. Let me make myself bigger real quick. I do want to make a comment about William Fitzpatrick. I will say I have been very critical of William Fitzpatrick. But I will say today he did a press conference at the end of the indictments for those officers involved in the Messiah Nantwi beating death. And he said a lot of good things and he laid out very specifically what's been occurring in almost every single correctional facility in New York State. So I did like what William Fitzpatrick had to say at the press conference. I will be playing that later on. So for those people who want to go deeper, continue to go deeper, we'll play the press conference. I'll be commenting on that. We have Melanie Doomers saying waiting all day yesterday and today for this. Yeah, so thankfully, I mean, honestly, I wanted so badly to go live last night. Last night was tax day. I have, crazy baby's kids. I wasn't going to be able to get everything done to be prepared to do a live stream. So I figured I would do it tonight and go over 5 defendants and go over the Messiah Nantry arraignments that occurred with those correction officers. We have Constance From Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn is in the house. Which part of New York, Brooklyn, New York, are you from? That's where I was actually born and raised. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Moved to East Harlem. Went to Jersey, and now in Florida. So Melanie Bishop says, I have been critical of Fitzpatrick as well. I think he is beginning to realize this is not an isolated incident. He didn't think he would be back in front of the press just a few short weeks later. Melanie, I think you hit the nail on the head, 1,000%. I think you might have some good points with that. You know, now Fitzpatrick is forced to say, yes, this is more common than what we think. These are not isolated incidents, and unfortunately, it's taking individuals behind bars to die, to be killed, in order for action to occur. So what occurred today for me with Messiah Nantwi was very positive. It's promising, but you have people that are locked up, that are incarcerated, who are not dying, who are being beaten severely and tortured. We have to shed light on those stories as well, and that's one thing that I am committed to, shedding light on those stories. So, but I do like what Fitzpatrick had to say. Angel Walters says, yes, go deeper. We have to go deeper. The more knowledge and information people have, the more you can better articulate the arguments that people will fight you with. So we have our Plo from Toronto, Canada. Welcome. Thank you for being here from Toronto. I think that's where Drake's from, if I'm not mistaken. We got Brooke with him with a thumbs up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We have John saying, "Man, these are people who are supposed to protect man. They lied. Try to plant a weapon on a dead man. Man, these people are crazy." So, you know, I think we need to stop beating around the bush and stop saying there's a bunch of bad apples. The culture is corrupt. The culture is decrepit. It's systematic. It's systematic. It's meant to fail everyone, period. Any culture where you have correctional officers who can commit crimes, these are criminal acts. Not only is it evil, it's criminal, and there's no liability for their actions. It's really a corrupt system. And the fact that no one has tried to adequately dismantle this system and change it and get rid of this collective bargaining agreement with NYSCOBA. It's really meant to empower people who are sadistic and evil. And unfortunately, that's what you're going to attract to the correction profession, these kind of individuals. So we have to change that. Melanie Bishop and at John, exactly. This is demonstrating they lie, they falsify, they plant evidence. In fact, for those of you who missed my live stream on Sunday, that live stream is doing well. I had Sean, a formerly incarcerated individual who worked at Marcy in the infirmary. He worked at Marcy. They plant evidence, they all lie, and they withhold information, and it's just, yeah, it's just horrible. Al saying his daughter Sarah presented at the indictment of Blair, one of the corruption officers that killed Messiah Nantry. So I believe what you're referring to, Al, is William Fitzpatrick's daughter. I believe who's working in his office. I could be wrong, but I heard of Sarah Fitzpatrick. Initially, I didn't make that connection, but I'm seeing it now. Brooke Witham says, I think the retribution and covering culture is extremely old and runs deep. It will be extremely hard to eradicate the culture. Yes, this culture is going to be extremely hard to eradicate. Extremely hard. So again, for those of you just joining, thank you for being here. If you can do me a favor and like the stream, subscribe to the channel, comment below. It helps with the algorithm because YouTube is not that doesn't treat this kind of content very nicely. YouTube doesn't really push it out to a whole bunch of people. It's rare. So the more help that you can do to help push this information out there, the better. So thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to jump to the next article, which is going to speak about the two additional officers, and this article is from rochesterfirst.com. Two more officers given more time to consider plea offer made in Marcy prison case. Utica, New York. Two more correctional officers charged in connection with the deadly beating of an inmate at the Marcy Correctional Facility will be given more time to consider plea agreements. Now we have the Michaels, Michael Fisher and Michael Mashaw, appeared individually on Wednesday, April 16th, before Oneida County Court Judge Robert Bauer, each due to decide on confidential plea agreements offered last month. Each defense attorney requested more time to consider the offer. Judge Bauer agreed to call them back for an answer in 2 weeks, basically resyncing the hearings with the other defendants of the same case. So here we have the two Michaels. I believe this is Michael Fisher, and then the other officer is Michael Mashaw. Okay. The same request was granted a day prior on Tuesday for three co-defendants, fellow officers of the same case: Nicholas Kiefer, Nicholas Anzalone, and Nicholas Gentile. So, for those of you who don't know, Nicholas Gentile received one of the lower charges of tampering with evidence. In the Messiah Nantwi case, what we will see are some officers who are going to be charged with similar charges because they've conspired to cover up the crime. Let's continue on. The 10 officers have been charged with different roles in the beating death of inmate Robert Brooks in December. The violent attack was inadvertently recorded on officers' uniform-worn cameras. So, out of all the officers involved in this, 4 officers had their cameras on standby mode. They did not know that this was recording, and it only recorded the video. There was no sound. So all these officers had their body-worn cameras. They had it off. We know that these officers faced no consequences whatsoever for murdering and killing and torturing inmates, incarcerated individuals. So do you think they'll suffer any consequences for not wearing their body cams? And during the press conference, you'll see Daniel Marchesello the third speak about the policy about how they have to have their cameras on, but that really doesn't mean anything. So let's continue on. Officers charged with murder as top count. Nicholas Kiefer, you have Nicholas Anzalone, David Kingsley, Anthony Farina, Christopher Walrath, Matthew Gallagher. Top counts against other officers. You have Michael Mashaw, manslaughter, Michael Fisher, manslaughter, David Walters, manslaughter, Nicholas Gentile, tampering with evidence. The attorney defending one of the officers accused of murdering Brooks isn't impressed with the plea agreement offered to his client by the special prosecutor. I'm just going to bring myself up very quickly because some time ago I did a video in which believe it was Anthony Farina's attorney, basically stated he wasn't impressed with the plea deal. Why, as a defense attorney, you would make that public statement? It seems very arrogant, and it doesn't paint your client in a good light. But the statement was made. So basically, the comment was, being asked to plead guilty to the top charge with an 18-year sentence recommendation is not a plea deal. It's essentially the same outcome we might face if we went to trial and lost. That's not entirely true. I believe potentially if these defendants went to trial and they lost for murder 2, that most likely is 25 to life. Again, I'm not familiar with the statute in terms of the potential sentencing, but they could be facing 25 to life. So if you received 18 years, consider yourself lucky. Let me put this article back up again. So here we are here. Onondaga County District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick and his officer are acting as special prosecutors on the Brooks homicide case. And that is the end of that article. Let me stop sharing this and come back. So, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. What do you think about these defendants buying time? Do you think there's some strategy to this? Do you think they're trying to negotiate uh, a lesser plea agreement? Tell me what your thoughts are. By the way, I'm gonna put the invite in the chat again for anyone who wants to come up and chit chat and give me your general thoughts about the Robert Brooks murder case in terms of these defendants, in terms of them buying time. So, you by all means, if you want to come up, just let me know. Also, just you must be able to show your face. No loud music in the back. YouTube is not good with music, and I could potentially get a copyright strike. So if you do want to come on, just be able to show your face, be respectful, and I give priority to people who disagree with me. So if you want to come on, you don't agree, by all means, I'll give you the platform to come and voice your opinion. Okay. So let me jump to a couple of other quick comments, real quick. Um, we have Josie Manning Taylor saying good afternoon. Uh, Josie Manning Taylor, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Kentucky is in the house from Josie. Kentucky is in the house. Thank you for being here again. I really appreciate it. Arplo, how did they allow this to go on for this long? In terms of how they allowed this to go on for this long, do you mean the abuse? Do you mean the torture? Tell me specifically what you mean in terms of going on for this long, because these abuses and these murders have been going on for many, many, many years, a very long time. Railbird R says CEOs must be punished to send a message. Murder is not tolerated in New York State facilities. And Railbird R is joining us from Geneva, New York. Welcome, Railbird R from Geneva. Thank you for being here. Al saying yes. Loca saying Fitzpatrick still let those so-called CEOs be free. Well, the thing I will say is that I did give Fitzpatrick some feedback, some criticism. I do believe the bail amounts that these officers got released on were low. They should have been significantly higher. It was basically a murder on camera, and all of them made bail. Again, I wasn't a fan of the press conference after the um, the Robert Brooks correctional officers. Basically, they all made bail. They all got released. Most of them got released that same day. You did have a couple of correction officers who got released later on who could not make bail immediately. So yeah, I these officers should not be free. They should be remanded. But Iredell, this is a raw, real world up front. So yeah, it's a raw, real world up front. It's evil. We're living in an evil world, and whenever you have power, people with power, it really is a reflection of the character of these individuals. Our Plo Superintendent Marchicello needs to lose his job. I I agree with you 100%. Both correction officers are unhappy with Daniel Marchicello III. Families of those incarcerated are unhappy with him as well. I think it's only a matter of time before he's forced to resign. Um, I think he's just a politician. He's wearing a suit. That's it. David Ferguson. I had a corrections counselor who tried to expose the abuse. He was beaten in the parking lot of Midstate Correctional by several COs. Wow. So you had a corrections counselor, a staff member beaten by correction officers. It's funny that you mentioned that because I have heard stories of correction officers being beaten by other correction officers, by staff members being beaten by other correction officers. So it's this seems to be part of the culture. Also SA harassment is also what I'm hearing common and continues to occur. Brooke with him says, Loca, you can't believe they are all not being held in a jail. Correct. Correct. The thing that I will say, I do believe in bail, but in certain specific cases where it's on camera, it's blatant, it's obvious, I would have probably remanded those individuals, those officers. So Brooke with a little correction. Al saying Nicholas Gentile described as the towel boy. What a disgrace. Towel boy. Logan says at Brooke in the Brooks case. So yes, Loca, they aren't in jail currently. Correct. Brooks says no, they are out on bail, low bail. Yes, this is what we've been talking about, the low bail in this case. Luke's wife, they should have cameras that are in all the time with no option to turn them off. If they remove them, a silent alarm alerts sometime who is monitoring. So I'm assuming you meant alerts someone who's monitoring them. Absolutely. It should be an outside agency monitoring these body cameras, knowing when they're being turned off, knowing when they're on, very similar to GPS tracking devices. You know who's in every single part of that jail at any given time. There's no reason why cameras should not be deployed and on and being used. Absolute disgrace. Loca, at Brook, that's what I said, that they were free at the moment. Okay. Horrible comment on the lawyer, Chris Milkey. Yeah, that defense attorney that made that statement on behalf of Anthony Farina. We know Anthony Farina was the officer, bald-headed guy, tall, who shoved his foot into Robert Brooks' genitalia and shoved a rag down his mouth. I truly believe, and God forgive me for saying this, that there's a special place in hell for Anthony Farina. I truly believe that. For some reason, he comes across as the most deplorable correction officer out of that whole bunch. Brooke Witham, Loca says yes. Melanie Bishop, Luke's wife, love it. Okay. You know what? Let me just move on. Okay, David Ferguson says there is no possibility of a defense. They're buying extra freedom time before the bars slam behind them. From your mouth or from your keyboard to God's ears. I truly hope that's the case, that they're buying time. And to be quite honest, if that was you, you would delay having to answer this plea agreement as well. You would hold off as long as possible to get the maximum amount of freedom before you go in and serve time. So we know that's the case. Al Razak says, I want to know the role, if any, did the correctional health care play? Yeah, so there is a role that the correctional health care plays. Sean Chung this past Sunday, did a live stream with me. We spoke about the nurses at Marcy Correctional Facility. Again, if you've missed that live stream, go back, not now, but go back sometime later or tomorrow and watch that live stream. Sean is speaking about the nurses and how they cover up these beatings and how they help orchestrate the protection of these correction officers. It's pretty bad. Al says, I want to know oh, I already read that. Curtis Thompson, there's no way Fitzpatrick is out of the loop in hiding the abuse/murder. All prosecution of any crime in Oneida County crosses his desk. Camera footage is irrefutable. I agree with you 1,000%. John, where is the video at? You see how they tried to make up the story to lie. So I think, John, you might be referring to Messiah Nantwi, but in the Robert Brooks death, we do have video of that. Angel Walters, I thought it was 18 of them and not 10. So there were 18 correction officers slash staff who were suspended, some of whom resigned their role. But in terms of actual indictments, it's 10 plus an additional 3 who will be taking plea deals. Tracy Cook says Ronnie Brooks, ROC. Brooke Witham, it's mafia-like. Absolutely. What's happening is it's very, very Cosa Nostra. It's very organized crime. these correction officers, and after you hear what occurred in the Messiah Nantwi beating death, like the cover up is just as bad. I believe it was referenced in the press conference as a bad Hollywood film. So we will learn more about that in 2 minutes. David Ferguson bail today was higher, different judge as well. So yeah, a different judge will set the tone. Brooke Witham, violent crime needs to have extremely high bail. Extremely high bail. I agree. Melanie Bishop again. The camera is what allowed them to be caught planning the cover up in Messiah's death. We need body cameras on at all times, no exceptions. Melanie, we agree 1,000% again. These body cameras need to be on, and it's really extremely deplorable when you think about those correction officers who were striking, who were basically saying we don't want to wear body cameras. If you're a correction officer out there and you're advocating not to wear body cameras, this really tells the general public how deplorable, how sick of an individual you are. Shame on you. Shame on you. Angel Walter says they really want to walk instead of doing time in prison. Al Rozak says Nicholas Gentile described as a towel boy because it is reported that short little twerp cleaned up the blood in the infirmary. That's true. That's true. Anthony Carmelo had $1 million bail and has mass media coverage. I wonder what the difference is. So very interesting. So Curtis Thompson. So his in the case of Anthony Carmelo, his bail was reduced to 250,000. So he's currently free right now. But that's a whole other case, a whole other video. Maybe I'll do a video on Anthony Carmelo if you want to hear my opinion on it, by all means. So, all right, I'm going to stop going through the comments real quick because I do want to go into some more news. Okay, let me go ahead and take out that comment and let me pull up the next article. Okay, and actually, for the case of Messiah Nantwi, I would like to read two articles. I'm going to read one article from CNY Central, and then I'm going to read another article from the Freelance. And by the way, for those of you not following the Freelance news, you must follow them. You must follow them. Go to the freelancenews.com and bookmark, I'm sorry, the freelancenews.org. Bookmark that website because that's where I get a lot of my information from. So a big shout out to JB Nicholas, who also you will hear at the press conference. And JB Nicholas wasn't afraid to ask Daniel Marchicello and William Fitzpatrick some very tough questions. So for those of you, please write JB in the chat. Could you please do that for the brother? Write JB in the chat right now and show JB Nicholas some love for the work that he does. Okay. This work is not work that you will get paid $1 million on. So people that do this kind of work do it for the love and they do it for the advocacy. So please write JB Nicholas in the chat right now to show him some love. So I'm going to pull up the next article from CNY. Give me a quick second. Okay, here we go. Mid-State Correction Officer's indictment claims of murder and corrections officer cover up. Utica, New York. An 11-count indictment unsealed in Oneida County Court accuses two mid-state correction officers of murder in the second degree in connection with the beating death of inmate Messiah Nantwi. The indictment also outlines the multiple steps the state says corrections officers took to cover up their alleged actions. According to the indictment, correction officers Jonah Levi and Caleb Blair caused the death of Nantry. He was 22 years old. So for those of you who are just joining in now, if you can do me a quick favor, please like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Right now, we have 90 people in the chat. Really appreciate all 90 of you being here. If you can do me a favor and give me 90 likes, that would be greatly appreciated. If you can go ahead and share this live stream with other people now who need to listen to this, please share it. That would be greatly appreciated. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It will greatly help with the algorithm and pushing out the content. So thank you tremendously. I really appreciate that. And I'll go back to the article. Okay, here we go. The indictment said that the incident occurred on March 1 around 11 a.m. as Mid-State Correctional Facility was dealing with a shortage of staff due to a statewide strike at corrections facilities. At this time, Governor Kathy Hochul, by executive order, activated the National Guard to alleviate the staff shortages. Now, for those of you who don't recall, there was a correctional officer strike that ironically occurred around the same time you had officers indicted in the Robert Brooks murder case. Some call it coincidence, some don't call it coincidence, but I think it was planned to divert attention away from the indictments and the brutal murder of Robert Brooks to focus on the correction officers. And we also saw the coverage in terms of what was covered: correction officers on strike with their wives advocating, their children holding up signs saying, "I want my daddy to come home." And the fact of the matter is, correction officers don't die on the job. And soon I will be producing a video speaking about the number of correction officers who have died in the line of duty. That's excuse me. That's a whole other video. I'll go back to the article. The indictment said that the incident occurred on March 11th around 11 a.m. Admits. Oh, I actually read this. I'm sorry. My apologies. Let me move down. The indictment said that around 11 a.m. on March 1st, a member of the National Guard who received little training on how to handle inmates requested the Mid-State Corrections Emergency Response Team to respond to Building 21 to deal with an unknown issue regarding an inmate. The indictment alleged that Levi and Blair, who were members of CERT, responded to the situation and had no clear understanding of why they were called by the National Guardsmen to the scene. It alleges that Levi and Blair began to beat Nantry and struck him multiple times on his head and body with their boots. The indictment noted that the alleged assault is against Department of Corrections and community supervision protocols. Furthermore, the indictment alleged that the defendants took Nantry down a stairwell and continued to beat him before he was dumped in a holding cell in the infirmary and further beaten. For those of you who don't recall, this past Sunday I had Sean. Sean was on, Sean Chung, who worked in the infirmary, and he mentioned the same thing. Those people who are incarcerated are beaten and thrown into a cell by themselves. Continuing on with the article, the indictment said Nantry's death was caused by intense head trauma and injuries to his body. The indictment read as follows: defendant's conduct in beating Messiah Nantwi and kicking him and stomping on his head for no legitimate law enforcement purpose, and for further assaulting him and injuring him on the stairs exiting his building, and for leaving him unattended in a holding cell for several minutes while displaying no urgency for medical personnel to check on him, demonstrated depraved indifference to the life of incarcerated individual Messiah Nantry and result in his death. Levi has served in corrections for 17 years. The judge has set bail at $100,000 cash and $250,000 bond. The district attorney requested $500,000 cash and $1 million bond. So I will say, I believe it was another individual on the chat who mentioned that the bails were higher in this case. So I think that Fitzpatrick learned from the Robert Brooks arraignments that these bails should be higher. Blair previously served in the National Guard. His bond posting is identical to Levi's. Below is the full unsealed indictment and those accused of crimes. So let's go over what these indictments are and the charges that they'll be facing. Second count, manslaughter in the first degree. Jonah Levi, Caleb Blair, Thomas Eck, Craig Klemick, Daniel Berger. Third count, gang assault in the first degree. Jonah Levi, Caleb Blair, Thomas Eck, Craig Klemlich, Daniel Berger. Fourth count, gang assault in the second degree. Jonah Levi, Caleb Blair, Francis Chandler, Thomas Eck, Craig Klemlich, Daniel Berger. Fifth count, manslaughter in the second degree. David Ferrone, Francis Chandler. Sixth count, conspiracy in the fifth degree. David Ferrone, Francis Chandler, Jonah Levi, Caleb Blair, Thomas Eck, Nicholas Vitale, Daniel Berger, Craig Klemlich. Seventh count, offering a false instrument for filing. David Ferrone, Francis Chandler, Jonah Levi, Caleb Blair, Thomas Eck, Nicholas Vitale, Daniel Berger, Craig Klemlich. Eighth count, conspiracy in the fifth degree. David Ferrone, Francis Chandler, Thomas Eck. Ninth count, tampering with physical evidence. David Ferrone, Francis Chandler, Thomas Eck. 10th count, tampering with physical evidence. Donald Slauson. 11th count, offering a false instrument for filing in the first degree. Michael Effer. In addition to the above counts, Ferrone, Chandler, Levi, Blair, Eck, Vitale, Berger, and Klemlich face conspiracy charges for allegedly covering up the fact that they were involved in the death of Messiah Nantry. Parts of the indictment say the following, quote, almost immediately after the incarcerated individual, Messiah Nantry, was transported by ambulance to Wynn Hospital. Defendants, now this is where we start reading about the cover-up. So the beating death is one thing, and then there's additional crimes that these correction officers commit. These conspiracy, the cover-up, and that's what we're learning about now. Pardon me. So we'll go from here. Chandler and Ferrone ordered those involved to assemble in Building 3. While assembled and in earshot of all defendants, Corrections Officer Levi pleaded for those assembled to omit him from the 2104A reports. A similar request was made by Sergeant Chandler. So what we have here, and this is common, again, oh boy, I'm sorry if I just get worked up over this, but you start to see patterns. Let me just bring myself up. Okay, we start to see patterns. We start to see these patterns emerging, and it's very common for correction officers to ask other officers not to be included in these reports. Very common. And they stick up for each other and they omit names so that these other officers do not get in trouble. This is a pattern. I mean, like, this is undeniable at this point. It's undeniable. Let's move on. The indictment goes on to read that the Form 2104A outlining the incident was in fact falsified to omit officers who were present. In addition, the indictment states on March 2nd, at the direction of Sergeant Chandler, all defendants and others known to the grand jury assembled at Raspberries, a local diner, for breakfast in order to develop and coordinate the false narrative that nothing improper was done to Messiah Nantry, and that Chandler and Levi had not used any force against Messiah Nantry. Incredible. Incredible. You can't make this up. The indictment goes on to say officers placed phony evidence to suggest Nantry was armed. Again, I want to make reference to Sean Chung again. He made reference to evidence being planted so that it can further corroborate that the incarcerated individual had a weapon or was attacking officers. So Let's move on. After the assault on Messiah Nantwi, and after it became obvious he was in dire condition, defendant Sergeant Francis Chandler ordered a corrections officer known to the grand jury to retrieve a weapon that had been confiscated earlier that day in an incident unrelated to the assault on Messiah Nantwi. Following orders, the crude weapon was retrieved by the corrections officer and placed in the custody of defendant Chandler. One final count of tampering with physical evidence was added to the corrections officer's charges, reading, knowing full well that incarcerated individual Messiah Nantry had been physically abused and was kept in the facility's holding cell. Defendant set out to mop up all the blood in the room, thus preventing law enforcement from conducting a detailed analysis of possible blood or blood spatter evidence, which would have aided in determining what happened to Messiah Nantry. So again, we're reading about the blatant covering up of the crime. Multiple correctional officers all conspired to cover this up and protect their own, the blue wall of silence. In response to the indictment, Governor Hochul ordered DOC's Commissioner Daniel F. Marticello to terminate the aforementioned correctional officers. And we know that Daniel Marticello III does not have the power to terminate them. In fact, during the press conference today, he was asked about the status of those correctional officers involved in the Robert Brooks murder, and he said it's pending arbitration. Technically, they're still employed. Most of them may not be getting paid, but they're still employed by DOCs. Let that be clear. So let's continue on. Quote, let me be clear. Our state correctional facilities must be safe for correction officers, civilian staff, the incarcerated population, and surrounding communities, said Hochul. We have already begun to implement multiple new policies, including expanding the use of body-worn cameras and bringing in experts for a system-wide culture study. The unsealing of the indictment comes as 5 Marcy Correctional Facility officers were granted extended time to consider the plea deals in a case involving the death of inmate Robert Brooks. The Mid-State and Marcy Correctional Facilities are located across from each other, and that is the end of that article. That was a mouthful. So let me pull that article out, stop sharing. I'm going to jump to the comments after I just hydrate with some Bustelo coffee. Give me a second. Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm going to jump to a couple comments before I go to the next article real quick. I believe the last comment was from Curtis Thompson. We have John saying Commissioner Monticello is powerful in Albany Family Times. So there's a great article that I covered in the New York Focus. I believe that author was Chris Gilardi, if I'm not mistaken. He goes over the Monticello family dynasty. Many individuals have covered the Monticello family dynasty in terms of many family members in high-paying positions working for the New York State Department of Corrections. It's a family-run business. Derek says, God bless for staying on this, brother. No, thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Derek, thank you for being here. Much appreciated. Al, no UTS. That's effing Angelo. I know I talk about him a lot, but I really don't like that demon, Nicholas Angelo. His name has come up with civil lawsuits as well. David Ferguson, Matos, cover up queen, mean woman. Yes, I keep hearing that. Sean Chung spoke about her on Sunday. So definitely go back and watch that live stream if you haven't already. John, Marticello is powerful in Albany. Yes. Yes, he is, but very much so. Miss Sagittarius 61. I agree. Farina is the worst of the bunch. Justice for Robert Brooks. Yes, justice for Robert Brooks. Again, just a quick side commercial. If you haven't already, if you can do me a favor, like the video, the live stream, share it. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot. It pushes me to continue to cover these stories. So thank you for being here. Um, just a big thanks to all of you. Like, never would I have expected to be doing a live stream with 90 people on it. So I thank you tremendously for being here and for keeping these stories alive, because I am not going to stop covering these stories as long as I live. Angel Walter says, "Oh, okay, thanks." Al, I wonder who those three are. Yes, I wonder who three individuals have taken plea deals that are not public yet. I wonder who they are. We have Larry Pisarski from Spring Hill, Florida. Welcome, Larry. Thank you for being here. If it's your first time, thank you tremendously for coming on and staying with us. Melanie Bishop, JB is working hard on this day. Yes, for those of you who don't know, JB Nicholas with the Freelance, he's been putting in overtime, so we have to thank him for covering and staying on top of these stories. And he's actually boots on the ground, boots on the ground. Brooke, JB, we have Al saying JB is an excellent journalist. Yes, he did excellent questioning. Yes, he did excellent questioning. Miss Sagittarius 61, Luke's wife, both saying JB. Angel Walters, JB, much love. Yeah, hopefully JB is watching or he sees this, so he knows the impact he's having. Al Rozak says, "I love me some JB." David Ferguson, JB Nicholas. Nona E828, JB Nicholas does a fabulous job. Chris Milkey, JB. John, John says, they thought they were safe in the bathroom. State police had a camera in there. Yes. Yeah. We got more JB big ups, shout outs. Al, I learned a lot from JB's articles. I am very critical of journalism since I've been reading JB's articles. Absolutely. John says, "How can I contact you?" I'm not sure, John, if you're referring to me, but for anyone who wants to contact me, my email address is in my channel description. So if you go to my channel description, my email address is there. It is criticalconversationshr@gmail.com. David Ferguson, there are 4 sets of steel platted steps at Midstate. Messiah was dragged down these after being brutally beaten. Unforgivable, unimaginable brutality. Unimaginable. Angel, again, yes, I remember watching you and Sean past Sunday. Yes, thank you, Angel, for watching and coming back again. John, criminals in costumes. Criminals in costumes. We have Red Pill Truth saying Cedar Rapids, Iowa, home of BCNN. I'm not sure what BCNN is, but Red Pill Truth, if you could do me a favor and write what BCNN is, that'd be greatly appreciated. Chris Milkey saying they should not get bail. TLL 921, hey Buffalo, New York president. TL 921 again. These correctional officers, I will be referring to all as such from here on out. So these corruptional officers, I get it. You got TL 921 giving a shout out to Melanie Bishop. Hello. And Melanie responds, hello, John. They was trying to set up his roommate, talking about Messiah Nantwi. TL921 says, y'all want to meet for breakfast and discuss our cover up? Good Lord. And of all places, they meet at a place called Raspberries. Again, you can't make up this stupidity. You cannot make it up. John, TL921, these people are weird and foul. Evil, criminal. It's all criminal behavior. All criminal behavior. Okay. I want to jump to the next article that I want to cover real quick. Okay. This one is going to be from the Freelance. And I will pull that up now. Talk amongst yourselves real quick as I pull up this next article. Okay. Here we go. So again, if you haven't already, shame on you for being on this stream and not putting JB's initials in the chat. If you haven't already, please put JB Nicholas in the chat. Right, JB? give this guy his due flowers, and give him credit for the work that he's been doing, boots on the ground. I definitely wanted to cover his article in here. And for those of you who don't know, go to the freelancenews.org. On the right-hand side of the website here, there's a donate button. Feel free to donate to this brother's cause. Um, he was a formerly incarcerated individual, and he employs and works with journalists who are all formerly incarcerated. So let's really support him and definitely give his website some views. So here we go. Second group of state prison guards charged with murder and manslaughter. 16 guards charged in connection with killing of Messiah Nantwi, 7 charged with murder or manslaughter. So let's see what kind of a different take JB Nicholas has on this. During this article, here we have the photos of those correctional officers, and eventually, hopefully, I'll be able to connect the names to the faces. Um, so here we go. We have this gentleman on the left here who's not wearing a suit. I don't know why, but I would think you're going to appear in court. Please wear a suit. He's wearing blue jeans. Anyway, the gentleman in the middle looks really scared. Just a side comment, but let's move on. April 16th, 2025. For the second time in 2 months, a squad of New York State prison guards were arraigned on murder and manslaughter charges in state Supreme Court in Utica for killing a prisoner. Messiah Nantry's killing was a murder so depraved and so wanton and disregarding of human life that New York law allows it to rise to the level of murder because of depraved indifference. Special Prosecutor Onondaga County District Attorney William J. Fitzpatrick said at a news conference following the arraignments Wednesday afternoon. The 22-year-old was beaten with fists, batons, and boots for at least 5 minutes, according to the indictment issued against the guards by an Oneida County grand jury. The medical examiner recorded at least 69 other blows about his body. Fitzpatrick revealed Nantwi suffered massive head injuries. Just really think about this for a second. A 5-minute beating, being tossed down a flight of stairs, and the number of blows he suffered massive brain injuries. Just absolutely horrifying. The medical examiner determined the cause of death was traumatic brain injury, according to the special prosecutor. Caleb Blair and Jonah Levi were charged with murder for killing Nantry at the Mid-State Correctional Facility outside Utica on March 1. Blair and Levi also faced manslaughter charges along with David Ferrone, Francis Chandler, Thomas Eck, Craig Klemlich, and Daniel Berger. Levi, Blair, Eck, Klemlich, Chandler, and Berger were also charged with gang assault. A few appeared near tears as they stood before Oneida County Court Michael Nolan. So let me just understand this quickly. So JB Nicholas is saying that a few of them stood before the court near tears. Like I'm wondering if they had tears running down their face while they were beating the shit out of Messiah Nantwi. I don't think they did. I don't think they had those tears. But let's continue on with the article. Okay, I read that piece. The jury box was filled with reporters and cameramen. They recorded notes, video, and photographs as the defendants tried to hide their handcuffs, waist chains, and leg shackles from the phalanx of cameras. All were released on bail by the end of the afternoon. After killing Nantry, the guards concocted a scheme to posthumously, I'm sorry, JB, why are you putting big words in this article? I can't read that. So they decided a scheme to plant a weapon in Mr. Nantry's room to cover up the murder, Fitzpatrick said. They also filed false reports. A body-worn camera caught two of the conspirators discussing the scheme to plant a shank, sorry. At the discretion of Chandler, who held the rank of sergeant, the group assembled at Raspberries, a local diner, for breakfast in order to develop and coordinate the false narrative that nothing improper was done to Messiah Nantwi, the indictment alleges. Fitzpatrick called it amateur and ineffective. Nicholas Vitale, Donald Slauson, and Michael Efert were charged for taking part in the alleged cover-up. 6 guards agreed to cooperate, Fitzpatrick revealed. 2 will be allowed to plead guilty to felonies. The remaining 4 misdemeanors, he did not name them. Okay. I definitely want to read that line again because I think I'm moving past it quickly. 6 guards agree to cooperate. Okay. So we have 6 that agree to cooperate. 2 will be allowed to plead guilty to felonies. The remaining 4 misdemeanors. He did not name them. Okay. Got it. It's probably for their safety that they are not named because we know correction officers will turn on other correction officers. Nantry's killing came 11 days after 6 prison guards were charged with murder for killing Robert Brooks at the Marcy Correctional Facility on December 9th, 2024. Marcy is across the road from Mid-Orange. It also came 13 days into a statewide wildcat strike by New York prison guards. The strike caused interruptions in the delivery of medication to some prisoners, including mental health medication and including prisoners at Midstate. Also, one thing that I will just throw in is that the strike did not allow those incarcerated adequate legal representation to work on their cases. Many attorneys try to get access to their clients and could not. Let's move on. So I don't know who this gentleman is here. Eventually, we will connect names to faces. Nantry was himself awaiting trial on 2 murder charges in New York City. Fitzpatrick said he was interjecting himself into another individual's attempt to obtain medication. Because of the strike, National Guardsmen were assigned to guard the housing unit instead of guards. Guardsmen perceived whatever Nantry did as a problem and called for backup. Fitzpatrick said the situation was resolved by the time backup arrived. So ultimately, he died. He died for no reason. Backup was the prison equivalent of a SWAT team, the Corrections Emergency Response Team, or CERT. Most of the defendants were CERT members, Fitzpatrick said. Fitzpatrick was assigned to prosecute Brooks' killing because Letitia James, designated by law to investigate killings of unarmed citizens by law enforcement, had to recuse herself because of a conflict of interest. Her office was already defending some of the accused killers from excessive force lawsuits. And for those of you who don't know, New York State Attorney General Letitia James may face her own criminal charges and mortgage fraud. That might be potentially happening. Let's continue on with the article. As with Brooks' killing, James had a conflict of interest investigating Nantry's death, and Fitzpatrick was again assigned special prosecutor. In what typically would be considered the twilight of his career, Fitzpatrick has done what many prosecutors fail to do: secure indictments against prison guards for unjustifiably killing a prisoner. This is a developing report. Check back later for updates. Again, that is J.B. Nicholas and the freelancenews.org. So what I will say about William Fitzpatrick is that William Fitzpatrick is in his ninth and last term in terms of being the Onondaga County District Attorney. This is his last term, and he has been thrown a doozy of multiple cases. Right. Again, I've been very critical of Fitzpatrick. I have been open to hearing feedback, and about a week and a half ago, I did cover a TikToker by the name of Manny, who did a TikTok video about William Fitzpatrick, giving him some credit and giving him some praise. So, what I want to do now is jump to some more comments real quick. All right, let's jump to Al. Al is saying, "Oh, before I go to some comments, if y'all could do, if y'all could please do me a favor, and if you can do me a quick favor, and please like the video, like the live stream, comment, feel free to share. It doesn't cost you anything to like. If you can tickle that like button, that would be greatly appreciated. If you can do even better and cuddle with the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon and click all so that you could be notified of upcoming live streams and upcoming videos. That would be greatly appreciated. Al says, Daniel Berger, Jonah Levi, et at all, shame on you. Aren't the so-called chosen people of the book? TLL921 says, at John, they are a special kind of effed up. John, Department of Corruption. Well, listen, for anyone who's been on the fence about the New York State Department of Corrections, hopefully this tells you there is systematic abuse, torture of those who are incarcerated. At this point, it should be undeniable that I'm going to continue producing videos about this. Locum, add John, facts. TLL921 says, screw Netflix and chill. Docs is about pancakes and planting contraband. Now this would make a good Netflix documentary or movie, but unfortunately, this is real life. This is real life. John says facts. Al Rozak saying, where is the article from? Which one? The last article I covered is from the Freelance News. Bruce Cook, Bruce, thank you for being here. Evil thrives in prison. Isn't that a fact? Dwayne says, I'm surprised they got charged, but this is just the first step. They will get the same treatment or deals as you or I would, question mark. I doubt it. None of these CEOs will do more than 3 to 5 years. Bet anyone. We will see. I'm hoping you're wrong, Dwayne. I really am hoping you're wrong. I mean, I'm happy that Fitzpatrick offered Anthony Farina 18 years. I honestly want to see Fitzpatrick. I want to see these officers serve at least 15 years. Okay. Al Rozak saying, what does HR stand for? There's a story behind that. It's a long story. HR stands for Human Resources, but now the channel is dedicated to covering injustice. So the channel is officially Critical Conversations for the Human Race. Eventually, I will get around to changing the branding on the channel, but thanks for the question. Iredell says, this happens almost in every instance in courts, police, hospitals, and stuff. You wouldn't believe it. This coverage is very important. Yeah, this coverage is very important. It is. Curtis Thompson, there's a guard in the Cali prison system that appears way more intimidating than Frankenstein. He has a scar from ear to ear. He, the most respectful guard, he learned the hard way. Oh, okay. So it seems like you're talking about a correctional officer who got slashed. Uh, who learned the hard way, as you put it. Dwayne says they've been getting away with this type of behavior for decades and decades. It's about time they're being held accountable. Yes, it is about time, Dwayne, that they're being held accountable. What we need to see more of is officers being held accountable for beatings that do not lead to death. We have hundreds of those who are incarcerated who have been beaten, who those officers have not faced charges yet. So this channel has made reference to Christopher Keeles, who's in mid-state, who was beaten the day before Messiah Nantwi was. Um, I've covered other beatings, other individuals who are currently in SHU right now. Pretty much, they get beaten, they get refused medical treatment, and then they're in solitary confinement. Dwayne shouts out JB. Thank you for that. Iridell, a documentary, I think 1880s or 1890s. 1 to 100 black men made it out of prison alive. Pretty bad on the rest, though. NY Gene, N, is that short for Indiana? Al Rozak, why didn't Messiah's family show up? That's really a good question. I do not know why the family did not show up. My understanding in the press conference is that Messiah Nantry's father is very ill. He's fragile. That's my understanding. Melanie Bishop saying at Al, they don't have the means to travel. Yeah. Luke's wife, I wonder how many more of these meetings happens at Raspberry's Diner. That's crazy. I still can't believe this. Al Rozak, why didn't Messiah's family show up? The DA's office, as it moves forward, will be looking at and assessing Messiah's support base. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why. Melanie Bishop, the repercussions of the strike are still ongoing. There is no programming, limited recreation time, reduced visiting hours, and many facilities continue to operate on a lockdown type of schedule. Curtis Thompson, the danger of allowing bail to all these co-defendants is that different deals rely on testimony against each other. The stress of dangerous life sentences could cause attacks upon each other, suicide. Yeah, I think you do have a point. But Curtis, people do have the right to bail. The bail should be high in these circumstances. Um, but also, I, I, I personally am a big fan of remand. So, these two main defendants should be still incarcerated, should be in jail. Angel Walter saying, "Will do." Sean, lots of love promoting what mainstream doesn't. Lots of support. Sean, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for commenting on the videos. I really appreciate that. Thank you immensely for being here. David Ferguson saying Messiah's father is very ill and was unable to travel from New York City to Oneida County. That is not a short trip. For anyone out there who knows the distance from New York City to Oneida County, please let me know. But I believe it's 3 hours, if I'm not mistaken. 3.5, 4 hours. Loca. Fitzpatrick should have had many more cases on his desk. I agree. I agree. Mama Gail, I'm from Utica. There is a lot of Hicks here. Notice 8 of 10 of the Brooks murderers are bald. That's the message they are sending to the Aryan Brotherhood. Interesting. Mama Gail says 3.5 to 4 hours from New York City to Oneida County. I hear that William Clark, thank you for reporting. Will from Buffalo. Will, thank you for being here. I greatly appreciate it. I am going to put one last time a link in the chat for anyone who wants to come on and chit chat with me and give me your opinion about what's going on. For anyone that disagrees with me, I will give you priority if you want to come on. If you are, you identify as pro correction officer, you want to come on, by all means, we'll have a conversation. My only caveat is that you show your face on camera as I am, and you don't have any loud music in the background, and you be respectful. I will give people the opportunity to voice their opinion, to say what's on their mind, as long as they're respectful. So again, the link is in the chat here. For me, yours truly, feel free to click on it, come on, show your face, show your camera. We have Loca. Loca, 15 years, 18 years is no way enough for what they did to Robert Brooks. You have people serving more time that didn't do anything near what those CEOs did. Yeah, I mean, Robert Brooks, his life is gone. Robert Brooks Jr. will never see his father again, and that's a father taken away. A father taken away. I believe he had 4 more years to serve, and he was when he passed away. I could be mistaken. He was 43 years old, 43, 44. And my apologies if I had the age wrong. He could have come out and lived his life and been around for his father. I'm sorry, and been around for his son. Um, so Melanie Bishop, big supporter of the channel. Thank you, Melanie. Shout out to the incarcerated individuals who risked their lives to speak out and report what they saw happen to Messiah. They didn't allow the cover up to happen. Absolutely. And what Melanie is making reference to is that the New York Times reported uh, from 9 incarcerated individuals, 8 of them gave their name, who reported seeing the beating of Messiah Nantwi. They gave their name, they were brave, and I'm assuming they're willing to testify. Ann Merritt says, agree at Melanie Bishop. Mama Gail says, we should collab. I will go to the courthouse for the proceedings and stream with you. Somehow these people need to be exposed for the animals they are. Absolutely. Yeah, Mama Gail. Yeah, they need to be exposed, and people need to really start talking about this properly. What's occurring is evil. It's not, I mean, it's corruption to some extent, but it's evil. These are people that are brutalizing people who are powerless to some extent. They've taken away their voice, they've taken away their lives, and this needs to stop. So yeah, Mama Gail, feel free to reach out. My email is in my channel description, and we'll have a conversation. Definitely. Nona E828. Let's hope there won't be repercussions for those incarcerated individuals who spoke up. We hope so as well, because what basically happens is when you have witnesses to these beatings and murders, they end up taking the witnesses out and moving them to different facilities. So let's see what happens. Mama Gail says, God bless Messiah and Robert. Okay. So I was going to, so it's been roughly about an hour and a half. I was going to go over the press conference, to be honest with you. I don't want to overwhelm people. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the press conference tomorrow morning. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, I typically like to stream around 6 a.m. in the morning. So most of you are not up, but if you are up, feel free to come on. And what I will do is I will play the 40-minute press conference that William Fitzpatrick did with um, with Daniel Marchicello III. I will cover that tomorrow morning. I will put that out there, but I will stop here, and I'm not going to go any further. Uh, we have Keisha Wong. Hello, everyone. Hello, Keisha. Hopefully, all is well. Um, we'll definitely want to talk to you soon, Keisha. Oh, Keisha Wong says, I definitely want to see. I'll be up. So, Keisha, definitely. I am going to end the stream in a couple of minutes, and I'm going to be going over the press conference that William Fitzpatrick did tomorrow morning. And for those of you who are not up at 6 a.m., that's okay. I will just watch it, watch the replay. Okay. David Ferguson says, believe it or not, there are decent men and women working in corrections. Some do genuinely care for those they guard. Yeah, I mean, that's possible. Unfortunately, just the culture is just filled with those officers who lie and beat and murder those people who are incarcerated. There aren't enough good people in docks to change the culture. Mama Gail says, keep up the great work, bro. I will hit your email. Definitely great. Yeah, definitely do that. Okay. Okay, with that being said, I want to thank everyone for being on. Thank you for being invested in these two cases, Robert Brooks and Messiah Nantwi. I was supposed to have a guest on tonight, She will be on Friday night. Friday night, I'm going to be interviewing Ruby Rivera, who is the aunt of Christopher Keelis. Christopher Keelis was beaten at Midstate Correctional Facility the day before Messiah Nantwi. He was beaten and placed in SHU. He was also covered on NBC4 New York, Sarah Wallace. I'm going to be interviewing, having a conversation with Ruby Rivera this Friday, 9 p.m. Definitely subscribe to get the alert so that you know when this live stream is happening and you have it on your calendar. Okay. So for everyone who's been on, I thank you tremendously. I thank you for the support. If you haven't already, please like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel, let others know about this channel and our work. And I look forward to seeing everyone again. Take care. God bless, and see you next time. Bye-bye.